So the question is, when you get back around to that next information gathering phase, at what point might it actually be more valuable to go back through the same information that you already went through to get where you're at than it would be to continue always only looking at like new sources, right? And I think initially we're all like, why the hell would I go back through information I already knew? Like, why, you know what I mean? Like, why would I do that? Well, one thought might be because it worked, right? Like, if you really like the direction you're heading and you're like, I like where I'm getting really good at this thing, or I feel like I'm on a good track. I've definitely I lucked into, or I finally gravitated towards the right, people to learn from. I've found a good group of teachers. So sometimes we need to just keep learning from those same teachers, or keep doing the same skills basically that got us nearest to this place we want to be. And then maybe you go back through that same material, or maybe you keep doing the same exact techniques with a different vantage point than you ever had going through them the first time, right? Because the first time you went through it, it was all new. And you would be shocked, I think, at how much we didn't pick up, but we don't ever really go back through that material to realize that we didn't pick it up. We always go on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and we're building and we're growing this whole time. But if you went through a piece of information that was really valuable, I would encourage you, potentially year after year after year, to pick a few books or a few things like that you continue actually to gravitate back toward, and realize that, because it's a space-time thing, right? Like, we're reading or this information, or we're acquiring these skills at a certain time in our life, and we have a certain amount of knowledge up to that point that we are able to integrate everything that we're learning from that source into. But the next time you come around to the same piece of information, you're an entirely different filter. Like, you're going to intake and assimilate that information completely differently than you did the first time. So I have found it to be really valuable to go back through the same sources of information more than one time, but not necessarily back to back. Like maybe revisit it 2 years later and be like, holy shit, I forgot. This was really enlightening at the time. And again, you pick up and you just latch on to, because some of that information is your baseline now. And you are completely in tune with what they're talking about, but that was what you picked up out of it the first time. And then the second time and the third time that you go back through it, you'll be able to completely integrate stuff that you didn't latch onto much better, because your new baseline has changed, or your experiences have changed, or the way that you've filtered the world has changed because of the first time you read it. And going back through it that next time just becomes so much more valuable. So I don't know, that has helped me, and it's something I've kind of recently started to do as I've continued to look for sources of information on topics that I felt like there was more juice out of that thing, right? I didn't squeeze it all the first time. And so, but I feel like I was always looking at other, I already did that one. I already read that one, so I don't need to read that. I'm going to try to find something else. But actually going back to the same teacher, or the same book, or the same lesson, or the same skill, or whatever it was with a new me, it sank in completely differently, or I got something completely different out of it. I've told people I'm on my way to Chicago right now to do a Maitland course, and this one is a new one. I've never done this one. I've taken some of these Maitland courses 2, 3, 4 times because I was different. I was a different clinician every time I went to the same course. So there's still a change. I'm not the same PT going to the same course. Hopefully, you guys should never come out of this stuff the same as you went in. Whatever you're choosing to do, if it's important, it's probably going to change you in some way. So it's it's the same course, but often I also do choose a different instructor, because I want to learn, I want to see how they have filtered, right? We're all filters. We're all, if you want to use that analogy, I use it for a lot of things, but it's everyone is their own filter that's just comprised of all of their past experiences and, you know, relationships and acquired knowledge and everything that they've done. Everyone is their own like filter, and sometimes that's why it's so valuable, right? Like to choose the right filter to run situations through. We're really bad about getting opinions from so many people sometimes on topics that they are not experts on. Like, I want to run certain types of information through certain filters, right? And I've got friends and people in my life that I know if it's this type of a problem or it's this type of a situation, I want to run it through his filter or her filter. And those are the situations that I think they are going to be able to take in and like filter through their, whatever you want to call it, system of knowledge, you know, again, like acquisition, assimilation, and all those things, to where they will have a more positive and more valuable opinion on the situation than somebody else might. And then that person's going to have it for something else. And I hope I am that for some people, right? But I don't know where I was going with that. I don't know where I was at before. But yeah, I really think it's important to revisit the same types of information once you have become different. I was talking about those Maitland courses, but it's like I'm always a different PT going into it, and while it's the same material, I'm also learning from a different instructor, and so I get an incredible amount of value of attending the same course 3-4 times. And most, like, that doesn't sound normal, and it's not common, but I've found it to be incredibly helpful. And I've found that me using the same PT technique in slightly different ways has become the most valuable thing than trying to always learn a new technique. I teach that when I teach at Bellarmine and I'm talking about the Maitland stuff, I give the Bruce Lee analogy that it's like, I don't fear the man that practices 1,000 kicks one time. I fear the man that practices one kick 1,000 times. That is how you need to be within your manual therapy skills. I need to be doing the same techniques 1,000 times. And that simple technique becomes more and more and more valuable each week and each month and each year that I use it, because I am changing the whole time and I'm better able to filter in and out information through that one technique rather than constantly going to new techniques and trying to learn from new people, like what new techniques they could do, because those are the ones that they have found most valuable to them. But you need to find the techniques or the books or the material or the teachers that are most valuable to you and continue to go back through them and run them through your filter over and over and over again, and just get more and more out of the same content because you are different coming back to it. And again, don't apply, obviously this is not true for every situation. Variety is like seriously the key to life in so many different aspects. But I think sometimes, basically, don't be afraid to go back through the same resource that you once found value in, because you may very well find just as much, if not more value in it the second or third time around.